We've been telling you all week about the controversy surrounding President Obama's safe school czar, Kevin Jennings. Tonight, we have new information on that story involving Jennings and his professed admiration for a supporter of the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Now, Jennings is on record having praised Harry Hay, an outspoken supporter of NAMBLA, and not surprisingly, of sexual relationships between young boys and older men. Now, we called Jennings' office for comment on the issue, but we got no response. And joining me now with more details on the story is a former FBI veteran agent who infiltrated the group NAMBLA, and he is also the author of The Last Undercover, the true story of an FBI's dangerous dance with evil. Bob Hamer is with us. Bob, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Sean, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Now, you actually joined the group NAMBLA, what, in 2001? Just so people have an idea, before we get to the political controversy, tell us about you infiltrating this group.
Actually, the infiltration was fairly easy. They had a website. I paid $35. I joined the group. They sent me a letter praising me for my courageous step in joining the organization. I began to get emails from them. I was subscribed to their magazine. They started to send me their magazine, but they wouldn't allow me to attend any of their secret underground meetings until I'd been a member for 3 years and had been sponsored by another active duty member.
All right. What is NAMBLA's real agenda? They say publicly that it is to get rid of age consent laws, but it's deeper than that. What did you discover in your years having infiltrated them?
Oh, yeah. They're hiding behind the First Amendment. Ostensibly, they claim that they are designed to abolish age of consent laws. I was in the organization for 3 years. I had attended 2 of their national conferences. I spoke with many of their members. I corresponded with about 175 of their members. At no time during my 3-year infiltration was there ever any discussion about modifying age of consent laws, abolishing age of consent laws. Every conversation that I had was about where to go to have sex with little boys, how they could attract little boys, how they could groom little boys. That was their agenda. All
right, you actually sat through a discussion at one of these seminars that you went to where they talked about, it's almost unimaginable, about sex with an 18-month-old child. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. At one of the conferences that I attended, there was a discussion about that it was actually okay, proper, there was nothing wrong with having oral sex on an 18-month-old boy. The rationale being that little boys, play with themselves, they enjoy touching themselves.
All right.
So the men were actually bringing pleasure to the little boys by committing oral sex.
This is really sick and really twisted. Now, this brings us to the issue of this guy. Who is Harry Hay and his involvement, the guy that Jennings has praised? Who is he?
Harry Hay is a longtime radical. He is sort of a NAMBLA icon. If NAMBLA had a Hall of Fame, he would be in it. In fact, in their 2002, when Harry Hay died, he was on the cover of their magazine, the NAMBLA Bulletin. Harry Hay spoke at NAMBLA conferences. He marched with them when they were more public with their participating in parades and all of that.
All right,
but yeah, Harry Hay.
All right, what do you make then of our safe school czar saying about Harry Hay, and this is him, he was one of the people that always inspired me. What are we to conclude?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he found that Harry Hay was a person he admired, someone that he must have followed the agenda. He knew the agenda of Harry Hay, and he certainly supported Harry Hay. And Harry Hay is a strong advocate of NAMBLA, was a strong advocate before he died in 2002.
And so Jennings had to have known that.
Oh, certainly. Harry Hay didn't hide his support for NAMBLA.
Okay. Bob, thank you for being with us. I understand you also took down 8 of these guys and got them off the street. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. And now, Kevin Jennings' actions and associations have led some conservatives, by the way, including me. We're calling for Kevin Jennings' resignation. The question is, will it happen? And joining me now to discuss this is Iowa Congressman Steve King. He also is asking the president to get rid of Kevin Jennings. Well, you just heard about the group NAMBLA. You heard about this guy that Kevin Jennings has praised, a guy that always inspired him, that was associated with this group. What are we to conclude?
Well, I think we can conclude that President Obama's agenda and his associates and their fellow travelers have been appointed to influential positions in the United States government. But this is a breathtaking reveal that you've done here, Sean, to think that, I mean, I've said before that I think Kevin Jennings has got to be the poster boy for NAMBLA, but to understand that he has also endorsed Harry Hay and at least referenced his association with him, that tells you that at least they support him and his lifetime agenda. As now he's supposed to be the safe schools and drug-free schools czar. And to think that his lifetime work has been about the promotion of homosexuality within our schools, and a lot of it within our elementary schools, and to think of this association, I can't imagine how the president can do anything if he cares about the values of America except simply fire him rather than wait for him to resign.
What do you make of him writing a foreword for a book, the queering of elementary education? And the other question is, did the White House not vet this guy again? Or do they just, or are these values acceptable? What are we to conclude?
Well, the foreword of the book of Queering of Elementary Education tells you a lot about the career of Kevin Jennings. And he also has 4 books that he's authored himself, and every one of them deal with homosexuality and focus on homosexuality within the schools. He's got a very narrow approach to this, and then I think that the president, whether they've actually vetted them or not, I think that the fellow travelers part of this thing is the vetting process. The people who advise the president have these kind of associations, and so that's what we've seen happen, Sean.
I haven't focused so much. I don't really, I'm more libertarian in terms of what people's preferences are, what adults do in the privacy of their bedroom. That's my position. I've been very clear over the years about this. But here's my problem, and this all got started because Jennings himself admitted that it was a 15-year-old boy that came to him for counseling, and because the boy was having sex with an older male and an older adult, which, as the Washington Times said, would be statutory rape. Now, Jennings said he was 15. Now, apparently, the boy, whose name is Brewster, has come out and said, no, I was 16 at the time. Jennings said it was 15. So it also raises judgment, because the only advice he gave him, I hope you were wearing a condom. I just can't believe there's not more outrage and that there's been no real questioning of the White House about this. Do you foresee this in the future? What do you see happening?
I think that if the American people rise up, they can demand that the president remove Kevin Jennings. And it doesn't matter whether Brewster was 16 or 15. Yeah. Kevin Jennings has said he believed he was 15. That makes him a mandatory reporter, and by law in Massachusetts, he was required to report the incident of sexual abuse of a child by an adult that was probably a decade or more older who had picked him up in the restroom of a bus stop. Right, so this is the kind of person that would be the model for our education, and it just cannot be tolerated, Sean.
Well, Steve
Yeah, this is a chilling video, whether it's a hoax or not. I mean, it's gone completely viral over the weekend. It's got over 1,000 comments on Reddit. It's got 200,000 views on the original YouTube video. And it's basically 2 young children describing how they were allegedly sexually abused and forced to partake in bizarre satanic baby sacrifice rituals by all these police, head teachers, and other local officials in an area of London. There are literally 20 videos of these children on the internet describing in detail what they were put through.
Recent video goes into greater horrifying detail.
It's the most busiest day of sex, and today it's Wednesday, and if I was right now on Wednesday in school, they would have done lots and lots of sex to me.
As the lights come on and the roaches scurry, a wave of propaganda rolls out, protecting the foulest acts plaguing the innocent. siding with the pedophiles. Deeming it a predisposition, a New York Times columnist says pedophiles are born that way. Does that empathetic logic apply to theft, rape, murder? The American Psychological Association doesn't agree. They published in the 2013 Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders that pedophilic disorder is not a sexual orientation. Meanwhile, loopholes in New York allow pedophiles to live within 1,000 feet of standalone pre-K and kindergarten facilities. In Mississippi, known pedophiles are allowed to get an educator's license due to the prevention of reporting and investigating incidents of pedophilia.
And sooner or later, you're going to have to conform your religious beliefs to the group of some aberrant thing. It won't stop at homosexuality. We've got what's called polyamory. Well, what about that? Well, what about polygamy, where you've got multiple wives? How can we say that one is constitutional and the other's not? And then, as you say, what's so terrible about having sex with animals? Well, that's going to come next.
But also, perhaps worse of all, is that they're talking about if you are a religious objector, quote unquote, then shame on you, because that's the same logic used by people when they didn't want blacks to marry whites, and or you're a bigot, you're indicted already, and they're moving towards that direction, which what it's going to lead to. The discussion, like the Solicitor General said when asked by, I believe it was Samuel Alito, and during the oral arguments on this case, what happens to the tax-exempt status of religious institutions that, if we rule in your favor, he said, preach marriage is still between a man and a woman. Are you going to go after their tax-exempt status? And the Solicitor General said that's a conversation we will need to have.
Well, we've already found a secret memo coming out of the Justice Department. They're now going to go after 12 new perversions, things like bestiality, polygamy, having sex with little boys and making that legal, and not only that, but they have a whole list of strategies to go after the churches, the pastors, and any businesses that tries to assert their religious liberty. This is coming, and it's coming like a tidal wave.
All right, so Congress, I just want to get this straight. So you are aware of a Justice Department memo that says there will be an effort to legitimize or legalize bestiality, pedophilia, and, as you put it, perversions?
That's correct. That's correct. They're coming down with 12 new perversions. The LGBT just isn't is only the beginning. They're going to start expanding it to the other perversions.
All right. Well, nothing anymore would surprise me. Absolutely nothing would surprise me.
It's a case that defies belief and goes against every principle of parenthood. An Australian man and his partner purchased a baby boy in Russia in 2005, presenting themselves as a devoted pair of gay fathers. In reality, behind closed doors, they were sexually abusing the boy and allowing others to do the same from when he was less than 2 years old. On the weekend, Australian citizen Mark Newton was sentenced in the US to 40 years in prison. His partner, Peter Trong, is awaiting his sentence. Cara Meldrum Hannah has this report and a warning: this story contains disturbing and explicit sexual references.
Testing, this is Ginger from ABC Final.
This past week, the Supreme Court of the United States handed down a dramatic 5-4 ruling making same-sex marriage a constitutional right nationwide. I agree with Supreme Court Justice Scalia that this decision is a threat to American democracy. We are entering an era of judicial tyranny. Justice Scalia stated that this decision determines who is ruler over 320 million Americans coast to coast. That ruler is a majority of 9 lawyers on the Supreme Court. This practice of constitutional revision by an unelected committee of 9 robs the people of America of the most important liberty that we won in the American Revolution of 1776, and that is the freedom to govern ourselves. This ruling is a direct attack on states' rights. This ruling prohibits states from defining marriage as an institution consisting of one man and one woman. This naked judicial power grab by the court is at odds with our system of government, except as limited by the Constitution by the people of the United States. The states are free to adopt whatever laws they like, even if it offends the arrogance of the Supreme Court. Justice Scalia stated that, and I quote, "A system of government that makes the people subordinate to a committee of 9 unelected lawyers does not deserve to be called a democracy," end of quote. What does it mean to Christianity? The Supreme Court in Washington has handed down its decision in a 5-4 ruling supporting same-sex marriage. But the Supreme Court in heaven has handed down its unanimous decision in a 3-0 ruling from God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, recorded in the book of Genesis chapter 2:24, stating, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh." Marriage is exclusively between a man and a woman. Same-sex marriage will never be accepted in heaven as legitimate, so says God Almighty. This Supreme Court has made America the new Sodom and Gomorrah. God will have to judge America, or he's going to have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. We are at that place where God is asking the church, who is on the Lord's side?